everybody, and welcome to Talking with Friends. I'm Josh Shernoff from FITE, and so says Shernoff, and of course, Talking with Friends, and these are my friends. First, it's my brother, Mr. Fred Shernoff. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Thank you.
And of course, right below me, Mr. Calvin Tan. How's it going?
Doing well.
Doing well. And next to him, as always, down this way, below Fred, PTU is being represented on his chest, and that's not the only thing. Matt Mangol, everybody.
That's horrendous.
Oh,
I'm glad to be here with my friends.
Oh, glad to have you here too. Glad Calvin Tan could make it. We were supposed to start
Finally
a long time ago. We've been waiting for Calvin Tan because the
I
man disconnected his equipment for Poughkeepsie.
That's a personal problem.
For Rebellion.
Calvin
Impact
Tan and
Rebellion.
we were just at Rebellion, Impact Wrestling Rebellion in Poughkeepsie, New York at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center. That was a lot of fun. Thank you to Impact Wrestling for hosting us. And tomorrow, as we record this on a Tuesday night, tomorrow afternoon, Calvin Tan and I will be down at AEW Dynamite in Philly. So we're going to be recording some fun stuff for FITE. AEW Plus on FITE. So if you're watching this as an international fan, check your availability in your market to see if you have AEW Plus. Now that I've done all my stuff as the FITE guy, let's talk a little bit about my other show, So Says Shernoff, because I had John Kiernan, the guy who created the So Says Shernoff theme. He's also done music for my good buddy Brian Myers, did his theme song, and we actually when we were there at Impact Wrestling, what we heard when the major players came out was Downstate and John Kiernan working together to create a song. They're the ones who do Brian Myers' music and Matt Cardona's music. They work together to create a major players theme. So we heard that. So I had John Kiernan on my show to talk about music in professional wrestling and decided that we would kind of allow this show to be almost a sister show, if you will. What would be the term I'm looking for? It's compatible, but a companion show. So yeah, let's do it. Let's get started. Professional wrestling and music. The thing that kind of got that in my mind of something that I wanted to do was Cody Rhodes. I mentioned Downstate. I believe they also do his music. Cody Rhodes returning to WWE using the music that he had used ever since he left WWE. And that got me thinking, like, man, I remember back in the day when guys would jump ship to different companies and they'd have to change their music. And I feel like it was always for the better when they came to WWF and always for the worse when they went to WCW. And then post-Invasion, we were finally treated to things like I remember hearing Buff Bagwell's music that one time on Raw, which was pretty cool. And then hearing, of course, Booker T's music.
Booker T.
And there's some guys you look at Booker T, and with the exception, of course, of his run as King Booker, which was a different music and perfectly fit him. But at any other time of him as just Booker T, that's the music. You couldn't have anything else. So we'll start kind of going around here, guys.
There was Goldberg, but they kind of redid his music.
They did.
It was a different
That
song.
was actually Dean Malenko's music first.
Wasn't
Just
the original Goldberg music you're saying?
Yeah, it was used like 3 or 4 years earlier.
Dean Malenko always had. I can.
There was one time he came out to that was on 83 Weeks a couple episodes back.
That's like Patriot and Kurt Angle.
Patriot and Kurt Angle as well. Yeah.
But Goldberg, they changed his music when he came to WWE, and then I think when he returned many years later, they went back at least some of the time to
sometimes to the WCW one. So what happened was they would have it. They almost gave him like an intro outro type thing. Like he would come into different music, and I remember when they were like Goldberg returns, what they were playing in the background was the WWE theme. But then when he came out to the old school Goldberg theme. What other can you guys think of like times like that where people like had a music, then they switched it to something else, and then they went back?
Ric Flair.
Steve. We'll talk
they had
about Flair in a second.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Flair in a second because that's an interesting one. And Calvin Tan and I even have a story about that. But the Steve Austin, exactly.
They dabbled with like a more rock heavy, up tempo version of his song, and it lasted like it was more than just like one play. It lasted a little while, but that wasn't gonna.
I mean, there was a time in the Attitude Era where they did decide to change everyone's music slightly, and then sometimes it sucked, sometimes it didn't.
Well, they had that
was
album.
an example. Yeah, the what was that album called? Like not Anarchy. Like
something like that.
Not Adrenaline.
They had like rap and rock and metal. Acts doing the
but
music,
they had, and it pretty much just ruined almost all the music. I know it's not, we don't want to talk about the guy himself.
The Undertaker, you've done it now.
Oh, well, that's a whole different. So yeah, there's a lot we can talk about, but I know one of the ones I felt was benefited was Chris Benoit's music.
Yes.
That was like one of the only times where when they sent it to a band to kind of redo the Jim Johnston version, I thought it was so much better. Not going to hear that music anytime soon, though. But Kane was one who then went back now, and much like Austin. I mean, the one Austin came out to at WrestleMania this year is not the same one he came out to back in, like they redid it a bit. They did that with The Rock a lot. It's essentially the same thing. Fun lineage story. Oh, I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
One of the best ones from the Attitude Era was the Brood.
The Brood was just incredible.
Fantastic.
I used to listen to that in the car for some reason. Like,
fun fact about that.
Yeah.
I used to have a 6-disc changer in my room.
Fancy boy.
Yeah,
Oh, in your room. Wow.
And I used to, so I had all my CDs in there, whatever. And I would listen to some music, like to go to sleep at night. I'd like just play a little like chill music or something. One night I rolled over onto the remote control and woke up to the Brood music playing, and it freaked the shit out of me. It was.
And remember at the was it PW? Not PWF. Whatever. I ran into your boy
Gangrel,
Redcon person currently Gangrel in the bathroom. He's a supporter of Redcon supplements.
Oh, so. A Redcon. I thought you were like retcon, like he changed something, and then I thought you were
Redcon. No,
Redcon.
He's a married man now. No, but it met him in the bathroom. Remember that?
Yes. Yeah. Good old David Heath. Gangrel. And he's like, I'd shake your hand, but I just washed them, and
no problem, sir.
Yeah, as Meanie used to say, they always called him the Tanpire.
Like
the Tannis vampire.
Hit Shrinkers music was used a couple different times by different people, I think.
The Head Shrinkers? Oh. Well, so back in the day, they had their that was like, they'd be like, oh, he's kind of from some sort of an island. Give him the island theme. Like give him the,
birds chirping and.
Yeah. It was like, and then you'd have some music that was the same, well,
if you remember, Jake Roberts' music was used in a Hulk Hogan training.
Was it really?
Mm-hmm. Wow. Jake the Snake Roberts.
And then Hulk Hogan's music, Real American, was originally used by Mike Rotunda, IRS, and not as IRS. IRS's music was, I think, a bunch of papers being flipped through. I think that's all it was. But no, Mike Rotunda and Barry
someone would yell, paper cut.
Yes.
Paper cut.
Yeah, right. Hogan started using Eye of the Tiger, right? When he started getting into
using Eye of the Tiger, and then he had that song that was on one of the early wrestling albums, which was dun, dun, dun,
is that him
dun,
jamming? Is that him
dun,
jamming in front of the
dun,
green screen?
Dun, dun, Hulk. Dun, 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 Hulk. Something like that. It wasn't exactly right.
When did he first appear with Real American? Does anybody know that? Is that like a
Mangol? You should know this. Mangol's old.
Wasn't it? Hold on. Wasn't it used by Paul Orndorff once too?
Real American? I don't think so. I mean, maybe, but I don't think so.
Obviously, not when he was a heel. I'm pretty sure.
It's possible. I don't know.
Well, no, it's IRS and Barry Windham. IRS and Barry Windham.
You sure?
That's who originally it was used for. Right. When he started with the I am.
Oh no, you know what? No, like Paul Orndorff used it. Paul Orndorff used it in an angle as an insult to Hulk.
Okay. I still don't know if that's true.
Yeah. It is.
Can you find that? Can you load up research? No, load up the cock and find it for me. Tell me where it is.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna pay Vince more money. Up yours.
I just shared in the chat. I know people out there can't see, but I just shared the YouTube video of that Hulk Hogan training montage with Jake the Snake Roberts.
I'm sorry. Wait a minute. We have a chat.
We do apparently have a chat off
to the we have an off-camera chat, ladies and gentlemen.
On the right, top right.
Oh my god!
I have a comments and reaction. Wait, a little where?
Yeah, it's on the right.
Oh,
this is fascinating to the people watching.
No, that's not. Wait, hold on. I don't have this.
Oh, yeah, he's squatting. I have it.
Well,
this is happening.
Yeah, but I'm like the host of this thing, so I don't know that I have it.
I'm watching it right here.
Hold on.
Well, at least Mangol can verify that is Jake the Snake Roberts' music.
No, it is.
Wait a minute.
It is.
It's all the way over on my other monitor over here. I gotta drag it.
7 monitors.
Hold on, there you go. All right, so Hulk Hogan. Well, I'm not gonna play it now. Anyway, so
play it, but you're just gonna have to edit it out.
Yeah. So okay.
So can we? I want to touch on that. So you mentioned about Josh when you were responding to Calvin about the head shrinkers, and you said in those days they would pick a suitable theme. They have like a bunch of themes handy, whatever. But so in many ways, I think that kind of defined the 1980s into, I guess, mid 90s pre-Attitude Era period of entrance themes. If we're talking specifically WWF, right? That they were very much geared toward like characters, and in some cases very hokey sort of theme songs or like sound effect.
Duke the Dumpster Drosy was it was like a trash truck sound, and then and that seems laughable, but even Diesel was the starting of a truck,
But this gets into a weird,
let's get
topic.
Weird.
Comparing eras, and obviously the Attitude Era was extremely successful in that. But
Matt Mangol, what are you doing?
Oh god,
Matt Mangol found something. He's very happy.
Go ahead.
I don't mean to bifurcate your sentence there, Fred. Wrestlers have used Real American. One such wrestler was Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff in a feud with Hogan in 1986. So grease that up and suck on it.
Hey,
wait a minute. Did you find that on the internet?
First of all, Mangol, when you talk into your microphone, you should have it in front of your face, not behind you.
Well, whatever. I'm into it. Listen, he was also mentioned by Mr. 83 Weeks, Eric Bischoff. And they were doing it on a watch along. One of them. Anyway, doesn't matter. Maybe it was JR, but it's truth.
Because the internet said so.
Yeah, exactly.
Internet, not Meltzer. So that's why I think it's. We'll look into it further.
All right,
we'll get our team on to it.
Hey, good. I'm glad you did something. That was good.
You were saying, Fred.
Thank you. I was going to say that when you compare those two time periods, like specifically focusing on the music and how it relates to the talent, the 90s absolutely had some very memorable theme songs, some of which are I'm sorry, the Attitude Era had memorable theme songs that are still classic today. We just talked about Steve Austin, whatever. So, but
that even predated the Attitude Era.
True, but what I'm saying is I think that a lot of the Attitude Era undercard became sort of interchangeable because they always had this generic rock, like this revving thing kicking up. It was always sort of the same beat. And I think in the 80s, there was a lot more of an effort to differentiate that the theme songs were really, it was part of that same thing with like trying to make everybody an action figure and a wrestling buddy and whatever. Like it was,
and to me, I think that's the best thing they could do. I personally, a big issue I have with NXT, I don't know who's there. Like
I don't either.
I literally, if I called for a bunch of movers, right, to come to my house, so I had an expectation of like well-built people showing up to my house, right? literally 5 guys come and you could pick. There are at least 5 people in NXT that you could pick that could show up at my door, that could come in to help me move my furniture and leave. And I never would have been the wiser that these were NXT superstars that were just in my home, because they are so generic. Not all of them. Some of them are absolutely, stand out and whatnot, but so many of them are so generic. The names are so generic that I have no idea who they are. And their music's, NXT for a while was killing it with their music. And I know those guys, the C something money sign, whatever the hell, they're not there anymore, I don't believe. But,
CFO they was it CFO, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they did some great music. They were kind of like
they
the
did
new
Nakamura's.
I believe so. Yes.
I was going to say, I don't know who did that, but you're right. NXT in a lot of ways had elements of the old, like, I guess, I don't know if you call it the rock and wrestling era, whatever it was, but like that kind of like,
but the character driven era, like where the music was, everything
Bobby
seemed to, right. They seemed very focused on the full package of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Bobby Roode, apparently his theme was created, and we talked about this, and so says Shernoff. John Kiernan had mentioned, Bobby Roode's theme was maybe made for Nakamura, and then they went with the other one instead, so they just had it. And I know AJ Styles' theme was made for James Storm, and then he ended up not signing with them. So, like, but it's interesting, and in the conversation we had there was we talked about the Patriot and Kurt Angle, where, yes, sometimes you can have a theme that is created for that wrestler, but sometimes there's a theme that was created for another wrestler that is just perfect for a different person. And that's like, AJ Styles' music is perfect for him. It fits perfectly. And then, Bobby, I couldn't even imagine Nakamura with the Glorious theme. It just, that didn't work. But I think, I wanted to mention a couple of other things that I remember discovering this once upon a time, many, many years ago, 20-something years ago. I'm listening to Val Venus's theme, and I'm like, why does this theme seem so familiar? And back in the day, when you wanted to like know stuff like that, it wasn't as easy to go online, and there was no YouTube or anything. So I dusted off one of the old, I don't know if it was like the Super Nintendo game or whatever it was, and I put in Rick the Model Martel's music.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be damned if Rick the Model Martel and Val Venus don't have the exact same song, just redone for Val Venus with different instruments. It is exactly the same it is exactly the same, which I found fascinating, but also think is awesome. And then that makes me think also The Rock's music. I think this has got to be, so DX had all their little like versions, right? Like you had your X-Pac version, you had your Mike Tyson version. Yeah, that's a whole other Hashkavaz.
Story for a different time.
So it's kind of thing get you punched on a plane.
By the way, go out of your way to watch a YouTube video of the most recent one, which the kid deserved. But the Lennox Lewis stuff is mid on card. It's fantastic. The stuff with Tyson and Lewis, the verbal stuff from back in the day. Anyway, Calvin knows what I'm talking about.
Was that the I'm gonna eat, like I'll eat your children or something?
Oh
okay.
yeah. Oh yeah. Good stuff.
Make you love me, or yeah. Anyway, Google it.
Yes,
but so DX had a bunch of like different versions of their theme, but the one that always stood out to me is so cool, and I don't think there's any other theme that this has ever happened to, is The Rock's current theme, The Godfather's theme, and at a time, D'Lo Brown and Mark Henry's theme, when they were like teaming together still in the Nation, were all evolutions of the Nation of Domination theme.
Yeah.
If you go back you always had the, we are the nation of domination, and then the dun, 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 like that whole thing. And then they added for D-Lo, or they added for Godfather, it became that like, bow, 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 in the beginning, and then went into it. And then D-Lo had the same thing, but there was like a little like twing of something in it I remember listening to. And then The Rock had the, do you smell what The Rock is cooking? Ha. And then it like started, and then it like went into it, but it was very basic. And of course, The Rock's progressed more than anyone else's and had so many different versions of it, but it all stemmed from them originally getting like, they took the Nation of Domination beat, because that's really all that was. Nation of Domination was more or less just a beat. And they just added different types of music to that beat. And it sprawled out into multiple different directions, which I always thought was just so cool that they were able to do that.
Here's one for you, and talking about similarities. Was it intentional or just a coincidence that the Ultimate Warrior and the Rockers sounded so similar?
I can't imagine it was
unintentional that they were supposed to be like linked together in some way, but was it knowing that they were just like, let's take this one song and rework it into something slightly different, or did you think he was composing something completely different and it just happens to sound?
I remember a time when back in the day when I had a band called the Moaning Lisa's, and Jack Houston, a friend of all of ours. I know he and Mangol talk all the time, but Jack, you just get out, man. How inside can we get? Like, we did the first 12 episodes about the TWF. That's what
he asked on the first date.
we did the first 12 episodes of the show about a little promotion that we ran back in the day. Yet somehow we have now managed to go completely inside. But yeah, that's we fiddled around on the outside for a long time.
Well,
anyway, but I remember Jack came over one time.
Live show.
What? You got to find the keys to get in. What?
We'll tell the stories when we do a live show.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. When are we doing a live show?
I don't know.
We'll think about it. Anyway,
right.
So Jack came over one time. He's like, "Hey, I got a new song. I wrote a new song." We're like, "Let's do it. Let's rock and roll." And he sits down at the computer, or at the keyboard, and starts kind of playing that a little bit. And he's like going, and he's and I might be wrong on the song that I'm saying it is, but he's playing it and he's really jamming to it and he is loving it. And then he stops and he goes, "Oh, that's Bare Naked Lady's Life in a Nutshell." Crap. He thought he came up with this really good, and he's playing it and he's like, "Dude, this sounds great. This sounds great." And it wasn't until he was playing it for me, because he didn't have any words to it. He had just come up with a really good progression, and then was just like, "Oh crap. All right. Yeah, this is why this came so easily to me." So to that point, I'm sure there's a possibility when, Jim Johnston's sitting there going okay, I've got, let's say, I think Warrior came first, right? So he's got I don't know. So he's got the
steroids.
And then he goes it's different. They're definitely different. But it's also in the same sense of if you listen to Brutus the Barber Beefcake and anyone else that was mid-card at that time, all pretty much had the same song. It was a little different. Even Owen Hart. Now, Owen Hart's became more iconic as time went on, as he became a bigger star. But listen to Brutus the Barber Beefcake and Owen Hart's music. They're pretty much kind of the same thing in a lot of ways.
The high energy type?
Yeah, the high energy one. Yeah. Okay. Which shout out to
80s drums.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. And then also the what was it, the synthesizer, the Mikey Ruckus, who makes music for AEW, just created a new Owen Hart theme for the Owen Hart Foundation tournament, and he's a huge wrestling fan, and you can tell because that music, if you listen to it, it is not a redone version, but every aspect of that song, while completely new, is paying homage to Owen Hart's High Energy theme, his original music. Because like, even like at one point he does like a guitar solo, and it is very much in that like that quick step down of every, you know, step like that with the do like that. So it was somebody needs to go in and take all of the little music sounds that I've done on this episode so far and put it together.
Just write a song.
Yeah, write a song off of that. But what?
Go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say, so we'll go back to WWF in a bit, but let's jump ship. Let's get out and jump ship over to WCW. Because WCW certainly had iconic themes, but some of them were not good at all.
Most of them were not good at all.
Well, so but then the question is, but were they? Because your first thought is American males. Terrible. Horrible, right? American males. But here we are 30 years later, and I still remember it. So the question is, while yes, as a standalone song, no, it was terrible. It wasn't good. But 30 years later, I remember that. I can't tell you what Roadblock came out to. You know, random other, you know, jobber. And I don't know what Ernest the Cat Miller's music in WCW was. I know what it was in WWF or WWE, which then, of course, became Brodus Clay's music. And then,
you know,
Xavier Woods.
If you watch WWF back in the day versus WCW, WCW's music was always a lot softer on TV.
Well, yes, you barely heard it. Yeah,
and
you
the same thing with AEW.
Maybe...
At least in the beginning with AEW, and AEW had the Keith Mitchell is the same person overseeing the thing. So I guess that's probably just a preference of the director, I'd suppose, and maybe I'm using the wrong terms, but I would guess, you know, whoever it is who's overseeing that, if their preference is, hey, I like it to be a little more ambient than, you know, WWE, which wants it to be part of the whole presentation.
Right. I always felt it was more like, I'm trying to think how to explain. Like WCW came across, at least on television, that like a televised product, and almost like the Oscars or something like that. Like like the music kicks in, the theme song kicks in, and it is that sort of like background, like, because here coming to the ring now is going to be this person, so they have their theme song playing behind them. Whereas WWF it wasn't so much about the TV in that sense. It was about the live house, and I think like that, like jolting that reaction out of the crowd, that when some, you know, certain music's obviously like Hogan, the big stars, but they even got like, you know, like Demolition and things like that. Like when those things kicked in, you felt something. It was not just this is their theme that's going to play because they're about to go do something.
And I mean, you think like you say Demolition also, Demolition might be one of my favorite. I mean, not might be one of, it's definitely one of.
LOD.
But Legion of Doom is what I was going to say. The Legion of Doom theme, again, that was something WWF did so much better. And it's something that we, you know, Fred and I were recently talking about what we did with the TWF.
Right.
You know, Fred, in our conversation we were having before, you had referenced Danny DeManto's music, where he was just using the what was that theme? Put your back into it, right? You can do it, put your back into it, whatever. But anyway, he was using that. But at one point he went to the microphone and he goes, "I am the man, I'm hot, chicks dig me." And when I saw that on the camera, I was just like, yes, that is his opening. So from then on, that was his theme, started with that.
We had it with Big Lou. I mean,
Big Lou, the yo, it's Big Lou. So says, yeah, I mean, it was, again, because we followed in that WWF style, which is what we watched growing up, but we followed in that we want to hit you with, this is who's coming to the ring. I want, within the first like split second of you hearing it, I want you to know exactly who's coming to the ring. And it's why when Diesel returned at the Royal Rumble years ago, everybody went crazy the moment they heard the revving of the engine, because it was undeniable who that was. It's also why when Cody's music started at WrestleMania this year, with the wrestling has more than one royal family, the moment you heard wrestling, boom, the crowd went nuts because they knew that's Cody Rhodes. And then also they went, holy crap, that's Cody Rhodes' AEW theme. Like, so it was a whole other thing. But what were with WCW, I remember reading in Chris Jericho's book, he hated his musics.
Yeah.
And
his one was really good. I always liked the Lionheart one.
Which was kind of like, there was one of them that was like off of a Pearl Jam song. It was like
that might have been that one.
Knockoff a Pearl Jam song. But I was going to say, I remember I loved Chris Jericho's music. In
Turner Library, yeah.
Yeah, it was like, song number 48 or whatever. But like, it, I always found that fascinating.
Sounding music that was...
well, they always had like MIDI sound. Like it always sounded like they just kind of had like a MIDI version of like the, this won't get us sued because it's just different enough. Like DDP.
Yep.
DDP
Nirvana,
smells like Team Spirit. Also smells like Nirvana. Very similar to the Weird Al Yankovic song. Coincidence? But his was like, it was so close to it that like I'm not even sure there was more than maybe one note in the entire song that was different, but they for whatever reason had the rights to that. But there were songs that I always thought it interesting with Chris Jericho that he hated that, because to me, like I was always like, oh man, at least Chris Jericho's got this great music and it's recognizable, and I knew, because to start off the
I think it's to the point where we're talking about. I think Jericho, what he envisioned for himself, he wanted the crowd to pop, to react to that he's coming. He wanted something that hits in a certain way, and I think it wasn't that.
And Jericho ended up, he's an interesting one too, because I remember, so I love that music. Then he shows up in WWF in one of the greatest debuts ever. And he's a guy who they redid his music, the Break the Walls Down one. They redid it at one point. And he actually, they switched him to Saliva, King of My World, which was a badass song, but he had to go back to, to Break the Walls Down. When he left and started it, and I know he did some stuff in Japan, but when he started in AEW, all I kept like thinking to myself was like, this is just not like, okay, in Japan he's doing whatever, but like, how is he going to come out in AEW and he doesn't have Break the Walls Down? He's had this for 20 years. Like, it like hurt me that he wasn't going to come out to that music. And Judas seems to have done pretty well for him. Like, it's a complete, where now I look at it and I go, if I heard that Chris Jericho was jumping back to WWE, I would be like, well, he's got to come back with Judas. Like, the crowd's going to expect that. The crowd's going to need him to do that. And I almost wonder if he would at this point, now seeing what Cody didn't go back to smoke and mirrors,
I don't know. I mean, you get used to anything. I mean, that's kind of,
Cody also cared, like I'm sure it was in his contract that he wanted to come back as the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes.
Oh yeah.
And most likely probably retain the rights to that also.
Oh, I'm sure he has the rights to it. There's no way he was signing that over. But speaking of people who bought the rights to something, Tony Khan, WCW 2.0, Tony Khan, though, bought the rights to the Hardy Boys theme. So the Hardys come out now in AEW to the theme that they made famous in WWF and WWE.
That wasn't a WWF creation?
It was not. It was that and Hardcore Holly and like Steve Blackman and all those.
You want to talk about inside here. I believe the same group that did the Hardy Boys music, did the theme that our friend Biz, his friend, claimed to create for one of our themes.
I knew what you were talking about. Hayden and Cage. So we decided at one point that it was right, I believe, when we were getting ready to go on Channel 48. Mm-hmm. And you want to talk about irony, because I had no problem stealing the video directly from Sky Sports or whatever, WWF. But we had this idea that, well, if we have our own music, we can play our own music on the thing. And then we had the idea, well, maybe we could make CDs of it. We could sell it, because that's back in the day, you got CDs. But so we commissioned some music. Mangol got a new music. What were you using before that?
Seek and Destroy.
Well, you were using Seek and Destroy when you were with Calvin, but before that, you had your own one too.
Super Beast by Rob Zombie.
So you had Super Beast, then you had Seek and Destroy, and then you ended up having the Mangol theme.
Right.
Which then years later, in 2007, was brutally ruined. Mangol decided he wanted a little bit more like music.
I wanted a Cowboys from Hell, Pantera.
Mm-hmm. With the like it was actually it was very cool. Yeah. In theory,
with something I can't remember what it was, but yeah, at the time.
Well, the mixing was the problem, because who was it? Biz's friend,
Greco, which is where we got Greco for Greco.
We got Rod Greco was from Greco-Roman wrestling.
No, I know, but it just happened to also be his last name.
Okay, so Eric Greco,
yes. He had the crazy eyes.
I hope he doesn't watch.
You gotta cut that out.
Yeah, I'm leaving that in. There ain't nothing wrong with the man's eye. Now, look, it
sounded like Vader's guitar. Like it sounded like
in theory, except for the fact that it was like he meant to record it at a 3 and recorded it at a 13. Like that was so it was all in. It didn't work. But your theme was really cool, and that was Biz had a friend at Temple who put that together.
Where AEW is going to be wrestling tomorrow night.
That's true. Circle. It all comes full circle. So Biz helped like put that theme together, and I think there were other ones. And then Biz decided, and this is the part Calvin kind of left out. Biz decided to take a little credit for himself, Ski. He decided that he was going to tell us that he pretty much made this himself.
On Fruity Loops.
On Fruity Loops. I made this on Fruity Loops. And we're like, dude, like this is great, Hayden Cage's music. And I'll play it for you right now, except I don't own the rights to it, because in fact, Biz didn't make it, because when everybody went to go see Bad Boys 2, I believe it was, in theaters, went to see something, and the Bad Boys 2 preview, I think it was, had that music in it. So, of course, first we wanted to congratulate Biz, for selling his theme. Like, that's great. So Biz, but he was so prideful back then. But anyway, so we took a stab at it with our own musics. And of course, years later, I'd have, as I mentioned on So Shernoff, Matt Fonda, and then really created it himself. And then Candace Harris did the drums on the recording for my Superstar theme that I used when I was wrestling, which I used for the first 3 seasons of So Says Shernoff. And then for season 4 is when I came back with this new theme that I have now, which doesn't really have a title. I guess it's called So Says Shernoff. I don't know.
Alliteration. It's called alliteration.
Look at your song as an example, and we talked about that with the TWF. But like you designed a song that was structured around the story that you're telling of going to the ring, that you wanted to pop the crowd with a reaction based on your words to begin with. And then you had an instrumental that led up to a moment with the glasses that you wanted to,
where it would like kind of like stop. It was obviously inspired by Triple H having his thing where he goes and spits the water. And what I had was I would just kind of go and come back like this. And then when it kicked in, boom, take the sunglasses off, slowly bring them down, toss them out to the crowd. If I was working baby, keeping to myself.
So it was like a theme song that was completely tied to choreography, really, of like the whole experience of what you were doing.
Yeah, which I mean was cool until I started working in various places in OVW, and my time, like I had to get used to, like it was never going to happen at the Davis Arena, because that was like 3 steps to the ring. Like I would have had to have circled the ring for 20 minutes to get to that point. And then there were some house shows that we did where I'd have to like kind of pick up the pace a bit because it was a very long like gymnasium where I'm like walking. I remember specifically this one, I was in a triple threat match and they had us come out of like the locker room area and it was like behind the bleachers and we come around and it was like, had to have been the biggest gymnasium in the world. And I'm just like walking, but like they figure I'm over here and the chairs don't start till here. And we're coming from like the back area. So I'm like behind everybody, but like genuinely like walking, but there's no aisle. It's just giant open space. And it's like, am I the wrestler coming to the ring or am I like some guy who's looking for the bathroom and couldn't find it and is just doing the John Travolta, you know, from, you know what I'm talking about from Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. Or he has his coat over his arm. So he's
he's got a, anyway. But WCW,
yes.
At one point decided, I guess it was when Jimmy Hart came over. Actually, I believe it was when Jimmy Hart came over to the company. That's when you got the Steinerized and you got the Man Called Stang, you know?
That was a pretty good one.
And yeah, that was good.
You want to get back to Mangol's point about Ric Flair? You
yes.
Told him that thought.
Thank you. This is a good conversation we're having here. So Ric Flair, I always just kind of had in my head, you know, obviously in the WWE, it was the woo, and then whatever the Spartacus gimmick Schnabitz part of, you know, whatever that song is that everybody calls 2001 Space Odyssey. That's just, it was used like in that.
Something or other.
What?
Thus spoke or spake or something.
It's like something Spartacus something. I don't know if it's actually Spartacus, but so anyway, but so I know he used that in NWA and all that stuff. When he came to the WWF in 91, was it? He did not use that. He used a Jim Johnston version of it, like a knockoff version that started off as like dun 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 dun, and like it was like similar.
Yeah, it was on Royal Rumble. That's where we used to record the musics on audio cassette to get themes.
I used to do that. I used to do that too, except for then I also had Fred would go on our dad's Clavinova and would record and would play it himself.
Yes.
What are you playing?
It's called Also Sprach Zarathustra. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong.
Toad the Wet Sprocket's brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a
Sprocket Mucosa or something like that. I don't know.
A Yamaha Clavinova electric piano.
Yeah, I think you take penicillin for that.
The
marsupial copectate, Fred.
God. These things have been out forever, and I have one of the originals, or like one of the first couple of years that they made them, that our family had, and it's about 10 feet away from me in my house. And when we first went to buy it with our parents, and they had them on display, and they were showing how it can play. It sort of worked as like a player piano. They played Ric Flair's theme song in the piano store, and I was like,
all I know is you created, like, I remember you made like Yokozuna's theme for me, and like,
so I have those on a floppy disk.
Do you really?
Yeah, Mr. Perfect. Yep,
dude, you need to upload
I don't know if
that.
it'll work. But
you need to somehow figure out how to upload that so that we can share that on our
my 10-year-old renditions of these songs.
They worked for 8-year-old me, and my action figures. They worked just right. And then I remember we download themes years later. You'd go on AOL and you download like a
7 days later.
Yeah, you get 45 seconds after a week.
You got it was like Gold Dust, and which is a good theme song actually.
Gold Dust was a really good one. Yeah, that'll get stuck in your head too, and then you're like, you know, did you ever have a theme that got stuck in your head, a wrestling theme that would always kind of like just kind of pop back in? I had one. I'm curious if any of you guys did.
I do have one, and you'd probably be surprised what it is. Actually,
yeah,
the Beverly Brothers.
I couldn't even tell you
Mauler,
what
the Mauler.
I couldn't even tell you what their theme sounded
Mike
like.
Enos.
I just always picture them starting in the ring with cutting a promo.
So that just pops into your head sometimes?
It does, yeah. It randomly pops in my head. So
mine is DX, but not the whole like, are you ready? Like that, not that whole part, but just like the like the dun, 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 like that will sometimes like and not that sometimes just pops into my head.
I almost like the Triple H 1999 2000. Wow. That whole thing.
Who's listening to that? Who's getting us kicked off of the internet?
Not me.
Oh, that's me. Sorry.
You're
Can
like
I
the
you're talking seconds of it?
Yeah, you can
My
play
time.
a couple seconds.
Our time or whatever. Fred, is that you playing your Clavinova, Haspanova, whatever?
So again, the question becomes:
I get that stuck in my head. Like,
and that's
like
my
MIDI
point.
File.
The question becomes: I kind of reference this with the American males, like, no one is sitting there going like, "Well, Beverly Brothers, one of the best songs ever." Yet here's Calvin Tan that thing has been stuck in his head for 30 years. Like, there's something to it, and there's something where you can go like, it's a fun. Like, listen. No, I feel like that's the kind of theme that no one would be upset if you got put on hold and that was playing. You'd be like, all right, I can enjoy this. Like there's definitely hold music. And Calvin Tan, in your previous career, when you actually used to create hold music.
Well, not really create the music, but
you would mix like the
voiceovers on top of music. Now, when you got put on hold, yes.
But the question is, did you ever slip the Beverly Brothers theme into somebody's hold music? Like if we went to like AT&T in 2003 and we're put on hold, were we listening to that?
I wish maybe today I would, because like not just on hold, but like I did in-store music too.
Man.
And I was in charge of programming the music for a lot of stores and a lot of bars. And today, like I had the power. I could have slipped in like the Beverly Brothers theme.
You could also slipped in the Moaning Lisas, the aforementioned Moaning Lisas. Say What album, available nowhere at all.
Nobody would
Google it. Go find it, everybody. Not gonna find it. But it is hanging on my wall. That is true.
You know what? Can I bring up another unusual one? We're talking about like memorable, catchy tunes that like that inspired a certain feeling, but it's we just talked about Ric Flair.
TL Hopper.
Well,
certain feeling.
Yeah. Macho Man Randy Savage.
Pomp and
makes no damn sense. It's the graduation theme. Why is he graduating? What's he graduating from? But that's iconic. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
And I remember like it was a good 70% of what pushed me towards working hard enough to graduate high school was knowing that I would get to walk the aisle
out
to the Macho Man's. Yeah, I came out, was pulling all my trunks.
But you should have taken the diploma with that.
Oh man.
Yeah. And started doing the old
just wanted to say
top punches.
The over the top punch. I know, I just man, but that, I mean, what an incredible theme.
There's another one, Jerry the King Lawler's theme.
Also classical
if
music.
You notice I have the yellow light below the blue light in support of Ukraine. His theme is actually called The Great Gate of Kiev.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was for a second there. I'm like, where the hell are we going? What does Jerry Lawler have to do with the Ukraine? But
it's a movement of
TL Hopper.
Oh, Mantar.
So it's interesting. Like the thing that so we're talking about like all the different like the choreography, the composing of music, and the they find them in WCW. They're picking them out of the bin, and there's all this. So and every once in a while, they would just pick like a classical theme or some kind of thing and just go this. All right, we're just going to use this thing because they nobody has the rights to it, I guess, and it just worked. And I remember one time it didn't work. If you could think of someone, it's not exactly classical music, but like that, like from a famous composer, and it did not work very well.
Well, I know Shawn Michaels.
Exactly.
Okay, so Shawn Michaels came out to. I loved it, and when I wrestled as the Magnificent Man in the WWF Kids, that was the music I used, and I had to fast forward to the specific and find the specific part in the tape of what the hell's it called?
Rhapsody
in Blue. Rhapsody in Blue. And it was I loved it, but it's only a like small part of it. And I remember looking online, but it was so early, and I bet if I look online now I could find something, but this was back when I was in OVW, and I remember like trying to, I don't even know how I was looking it up or whatever, but I was trying to find if anyone had like covered that, like a rock version, because I thought that could be kind of cool. What if I came out to Rhapsody in Blue, that portion that Shawn Michaels came out to? And now, years later, I think about Glorious with Bobby Roode, and I think that's kind of in a way almost like that same, you could have that same kind of feel to it, you know? But yeah, but then Shawn Michaels went from that to
Boy Toy.
With Sensational Sherry, and then to his own.
Back in my parents' house somewhere, I have a cassette tape from the WWE fan club with the original Shawn Michaels entrance music, Boy Toy, with Sensational Sherry singing.
I had that too. I also had a tape. This is tough to talk about. Remember, like it was yesterday. I had a WWF tape. I know it had Earthquake's theme on it. And I want to say maybe Big Boss Man, something like that. And this is back in the day. You'd get that tape from being a part of the, the fan club. And I had it. I was bringing it around with me for whatever reason. I don't know why I'm holding it with me. We had a gathering of some sorts. Maybe it was a family affair. Maybe it was a birthday party. I'm not sure. But what I do know is that in the island, the peninsula, if you will, that we had in our first home growing up, there was an apple juice, and I was pouring an apple juice, and I knocked over my cup, and the apple juice proceeded to seep inside the tape, effectively ruining, sticking it all together and ruining that tape. And someone who didn't grow up in the 80s and 90s might be watching this saying so. But you have to understand two things about this. Number one, you couldn't order these. They were sent to you as being a part of the fan club. You couldn't contact and go, maybe you could have, but I didn't know how to contact and go, my tape is ruined. Can you send me another? And not to mention, I think it had already been like a couple years. Like they had already, since they had sent it. And the other thing was there was no internet. You couldn't download, you couldn't just be like, oh man, I'll have to, so you couldn't rebuy it, and you couldn't, get a copy. And I didn't know anyone else that had it at the time. It was heartbeaking.
Calvin Tan.
But I didn't know Calvin Tan at that time in my life.
One of those tape-to-tape players, dual deck cassette.
You created a backup for yourself.
I created I played the backup because I didn't want to ruin the original. So as soon as I got it, I re-recorded it onto a blank tape, and that's what I would play.
Wow. Oh, man. I wish I had known you back then.
Big Boston was a great theme, too.
Oh, man. Interesting thing, that theme is the only reason I know that a Cobb County, Georgia exists.
Yep. Good old Jimmy Hart.
Can you think of anything else, because I can think off the top of my head, places in the world or words or things that you only know because of pro wrestling? Because I can think Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Mm-hmm. Without professional wrestling, I never in a million years would have known that. I wouldn't have known of San Antonio, Texas. Certainly wouldn't have known of Victoria, Texas. And I'm not talking about like as I became like an adult and you start traveling places and
New
learning.
Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like
Venice Beach, California.
Reno, Nevada.
Parts unknown.
Parts unknown. I didn't even know. I mean, they were really unknown. But no, so there's
seasonal residences.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Your mother's bedroom.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it's independent scene. That's the independent wrestling scene.
Wow.
That's always,
remember they used to always do that from your who used to do that?
Sorry. Was
that the Danny DeManto or something?
It's like
it's probably had to be
from wherever they want. Like it's like
from wherever they damn well please. And it's like shut the come on, it's terrible. But things like seasonal residence. Would I have learned that term as I got older? Absolutely, I'm sure I would have. Did I learn that term because of the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase? 100%.
Also a great theme song.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was a really good one.
That one, talking about getting stuff stuck in your head. When I did the cartoon for ad-free shows with Vince as the $1 Million Man, and I had to cut that little clip of it in there. That beat was in my head for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's gonna
is that the one where he's choking me out, Fred?
Yeah, in case anybody doesn't know that.
Yeah, anybody who doesn't know,
man is choking me out.
Inappropriate smoker on the plane.
And then I was consulting a hooker in Vegas with Bischoff sitting across.
Yeah, so a little inside baseball.
Calvin is constantly appearing in the cartoons, working at the airports.
Yeah, a little inside baseball to that. When Fred first did Meanie Tunes, a lot of the characters for just the extra characters that we would need were made to look like Calvin and Mangol, and there's even a Fred in there that I believe was repurposed into Sancho Ponzi. No, not Sancho Ponzi.
No, he's
Sancho Ponzi.
The old Mexican man.
The old Mexican man in the
lunch with Pancho Villa.
Pancho Villa, that's what it was. Yeah,
Sancho Ponzi.
You know Pancho Villa? You know Pancho Villa? But yeah, so there's a whole.
So whose theme was, I think it was the first where they had a different entrance theme and a distinctly different theme after they won.
Mankind.
Holy Mankind, yeah.
Mankind.
And I thought that was great.
I thought that was amazing.
Fantastic.
And I remember also when they finally released that on the WWF Music, the Full Metal or whatever it was, or it may have been the next one after that, but I remember they first released it and they had him like, they didn't just have the music, they had him like talking. Where he's like, the time has come to relieve my pain. Which is, so I don't know, something it's like
that was a pretty good Mankind.
Which should be better for me, but not so enjoyable for all of you. And then it like goes into the thing. That's what it was. And it's like, and I remember as a kid at first I was like, oh, why do they have that? And then I fell in love with it. But thank you, Calvin, for that.
Hey, by the way, Sancho Ponzi is a fictional character in the novel of Don Quixote.
Yes, Don Quixote. Yes,
Sancho is squire to Don Quixote, and he provides comments throughout the novel known as Sanchismos. Sanchismos.
Feel that.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Sancho, it's from Billy Crystal and
I have to use that word at some point.
At the end, he's like, Danny DeVito's walk into the beach with his flippers. He's like, look at this guy. He's like a weeble with flippers. Sancho Ponzi over here.
So here's the challenge to everyone.
Okay.
You have to use Sanchismo in a sentence within the next
T-shirt.
In the week.
Within the next week, you have to use it.
All right. If I can remember Sanchismos. Sanchismos.
They're comments, witty comments along the way. Which
I'm going to throw this out here. That is only going to be, if you watch this show, you will be able to go and find this.
They're a combination of broad humor and ironic Spanish proverbs.
Tomorrow night,
brush up on your Spanish proverbs.
As we record this, tomorrow night, Calvin and I will be down at AEW recording social media interviews with talent and stuff like that. I promise, if Calvin reminds me, so I'm putting this on you, Calvin.
Sanchismos.
I will work Sanchismos into one of the interviews.
Gotta study the definition.
But it has to
make sure I use it properly.
Spanish proverb, because his earthy wit, broad humor, and Spanish proverbs is what he was. So you got to brush up on your Spanish proverbs.
Well, no, I'm using the word Sanchismos. I'm not going to make.
But those are his witty. Those are the witty remarks. So you have your own version of it.
Yeah, but he could be. But Josh could be describing somebody's witty remarks and call it Sanchismos.
I guess you could.
Sammy Guevara recently has been presenting a decent amount of Sanchismos, as it refers to his mic work with so and so. Yeah. So sorry, Sammy, I'm using it with you. What?
There's a whole list of them that you can.
It's actually terrible. They want FITE had asked like, hey, can we maybe do something with like the Spanish announcers with Alex Abrahantes, and if we can do something to put over that. And now
I got a good one. I got a good one for you.
Okay.
So here you go.
The lucky man has nothing to worry about. You could throw that one in there and just say, Sanchismo.
That's a Sanchismos. That's an original.
Little Sanchismos for you.
That's an OG Sanchismos.
All right. So now the challenge to all of you watching this is you have to go over to FITE's social media, which can be a challenge in and of itself. You have to go over to FITE's social media and scroll through and find it. And I'll tell you what, I will send a free Josh Shernoff action figure, signed Josh Shernoff action figure, to the first person who can tweet at me, at So Says Shernoff, tweet me a clip, or at least tell me which interview it was when I said that line. So if you can do that, I will send you a free action figure signed.
What are the chances they're gonna think that you're trying to be racist towards them by making up a Spanish word?
Well, I can't do it with the Spanish stars. No, I can't. No, I have to do it with just somebody else where it sounds like I'm just saying some random thing. But so folks, this is the episode where you learn how I got myself fired from FITE. As we begin to wind things down here.
Yes. We have to touch on probably the one of the best and longest lasting theme songs of all time, which is of course the Undertaker.
Yep.
Yes. Talk about another one that evolved over the years. Just a beautiful song. If you ever listen to, they had at one point they released Jim Johnston like recorded it like just piano and
on the piano. Yep.
It was
that's how he wrote it on the piano, and then they figured it out later.
And like you look at, because Jim Johnston he's not a wrestling fan. He's a composer, and he was able to create this incredible music. And sometimes I feel like that did come through with with the Val Venus Rick Martel song, with Gold Dust. I think some of these you got like a little of like, okay, he was like, it's fun, I made you the Rockers, let me let me make one for me now, you know.
And for the longest time, everyone in the indies was using that Ken Shamrock theme as their entrance music.
I know one guy in particular.
Yeah.
I've heard it so many times in indies back in the day.
That was Punch Fresh's theme.
That was.
Well, actually.
No, it was, but also when we went to indie shows back then,
I had a redone version of it.
You had I want to say it was like a Wow Magazine knockoff. Yes. I don't know if it was Wow Magazine, whatever it was. It was, I got the CD. It was part of a gift at Brandon Apter's bar mitzvah. It was part of like what was given out.
We did have knockoff.
It was knockoff wrestling songs, and we used that version for the Punch Fresh theme of the of Ken Shamrock's theme. But no, indie wrestling has always, it's so nice now looking at indie wrestling. So many people are getting their own music created by guys like John Kiernan, who are incredibly talented and incredibly affordable as well. So indie wrestlers doing this. And I look at it nowadays and I go, if you're an indie wrestler and you don't have your own theme today, you're not even trying. Like, what is your goal? It is the easiest form of branding.
It should be part of your personal brand.
It should be the same way you bring your gimmicks to sell. You should have that. You should have good gear. You know, Calvin and I were talking about at Impact. We were talking about the gear and stuff, and I was saying, like, I was just so glad that it wasn't the way it was back in like the early 2000s in the indies. Like now, like anybody, I know Impact is a little bit more than an indie, but all of this talent that you see out there, even in GCW, they've got really quality wrestling gear. A lot of the wrestlers there, like that little bitch Jordan Oliver, has some good gear. But I think I think having having an entrance theme is so important today, because nowadays, you know, once upon a time, it's like, well, it didn't really matter until you get to the big time, and then they'll do whatever. But nowadays, like, I know music that Kieran made for guys on the indies, they're using an AEW now. They're using an Impact. They're using that music. So that's huge. And it also, again, it's part of, if you have the right music, it's part of your fans get into it. They pop for, you know, for you and for that. I was talking to John Morrison earlier today, and he was telling me how Psycho Clown from AAA, how he's like, I don't know why, but his entrance music is my favorite entrance music ever in wrestling. He's like, the whole thing just comes together and all, like, and the excuse me when I pick up that name that I dropped, but but the important thing is, you look at these guys like Cody Rhodes coming back. For 6 years, he developed this new persona with a music that was his, that the words were written for him. It spoke to him. It embodied what he felt he was, which in turn allowed him to present that when he would come to the ring. And for him to come back to WWE and go back to that smoke and mirrors music would have just been a guy coming out to a music that was made for a wrestling character. And it's why, which was a cool music, don't get me wrong, but it's why, you know, him coming back with this theme makes so much sense. And I mean, to me, wrestling and music, it's hard to believe, as I said on So Says Shernoff, that it's only been about 40 years or so that it's been really prevalent. And even less than that, there were still times within the last 35 years where guys didn't really have music, didn't have their own themes, you know? And it's crazy, but we could talk about, I mean, we could go on forever and talk more and more. We could talk about ECW, which didn't have the rights to damn near anything, but introduced me to, I'd never heard of Deep Purple, the band, until I was like, man, how can I get my hands on Shane Douglas's music? Perfect Strangers by Deep Purple. Alice in Chains' Man in a Box, Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah. That whole genre of music was like exposed to a lot of people. Just
Raven with the Offspring.
Mm-hmm. Got to keep them separated.
Taz.
Yeah.
Taz was one, which was interesting. Taz was War Machine, that then he got his own version of it made in ECW. Interestingly, though, was not on the CD that they then sold of redone versions. Do you remember who did Enter Sandman on the CD? Because Rod Greco used that when he was the Dominator in the original.
I had that
TWF.
CD too.
Well, I used a theme from it. I know Brody used a theme from it. Brody did
it was Lemmy and Zebrahead.
Oh, okay.
That did the Metallica cover.
Interesting. And speaking of Lemmy, you know, with Motorhead, which ran much faster than Zebrahead. But you know, of course, that's an interesting one too, where you say like the first person to come to the ring with one song, leave with another one. Triple H has got to be the first person to just have interchangeable themes that aren't just like from his group and himself.
Right.
But the fact that when he would come out, you know, for a promo and it was King of Kings, he'd come out to the ring to wrestle and it was the Game. Like, it was really interesting that happened. And Mangol mentioned earlier I don't know if that was a song that was stuck in your head, but but you had mentioned earlier
Our Time.
Was it My Time?
My Time, Our Time. My Time.
Yeah, Here Comes Trouble. You know,
right.
that was a great one too, and that was kind of an evolution as well as his evolution theme. Yeah, so here's a question: does anyone in the history of professional wrestling have more entrance themes than Triple H?
Probably not.
If you think about the original, dun, 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 and I'm talking
Undertaker
character. I'm not talking people who jumped ship, and I'm not talking about evolutions.
Okay.
Exactly. I'm talking about drastically different. For instance, the Undertaker, I'm sure the one when he retired was slightly redone from one in like 2005 or something. You know what I mean? Like, but it was more or less the same one. Now, Undertaker had the one during the Attitude Era, the dun, 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 that one. That I would count as a separate one.
He had his Big Show theme.
The Big Show team theme. He had the Ministry of Darkness theme.
And obviously all his like totally different character.
He had American Badass. He had Rollin'. He had the
You've Done It
just
Now.
Now, would we count just the music version and then the You've Done It Now version where words were added as two separate?
I just like to forget it, really.
But no, but for argument's sake, would we count it as two separate?
Sure.
I think so. It's a completely different presentation.
Okay.
And then he had, we'll even give him original Undertaker and then what we'll call like
Purple and Beyond
Undertaker. So that's 9 that I can think of. So that's 9 for him. So now Triple H, and we're not talking like Mean Mark Callis either. We're talking the character. So Triple H had his first, he had
Ode to Joy.
Right, so he had his custom music, then he had Ode to Joy.
Then he had DX.
Mm-hmm.
I won't count all the various DXs because he only came out to that one DX. Okay. That was his. Then he had some weird one for a little while, like a very short amount of time. He had some weird rock style one that was like had like shades of My Time in it, but wasn't that. Then he had the My Time instrumental, which for argument's sake we are going to count the My Time with the words. Mm-hmm. Then he got The Game by Motorhead,
right?
Which I remember I was like, oh God, what is this? Like, I love My Time. Like, how could they change it? And then he had King of Kings, mm-hmm. Evolution, The Authority. For a short time, they came out to their own theme. The Authority had their own theme.
Okay. Yes, he's got a lot.
I think, wait a minute. I know they had their own logo and entrance music. They may not have had their own theme. That may have been King of Kings.
Yeah, I don't recall.
So he's tied with Undertaker at 9. Was there anything else? Did he have any other one? Trying to think. What other factions was he a part of? I don't know. That might be it. He might be at 9. We'll have to check on the Authority. Let's see if the Authority had a theme song. I'm going to look that up. But I can't think of anyone else. Let's see. The Authority. Oh, there's their logo. Their logo is actually pretty cool. It had, if you can see it here, it had the A for Authority. It had the McMahon lion, and then it had the Triple H cross logo. Authority. No, it was King of Kings theme song. What happened to Fred?
What dark?
Oh, Fred. Oh, Fred, what have you done?
It's the COVID.
What? Welcome back.
It's not as cool as this.
Oh, God. It's fading himself out. Fred seems to be having interweb issues.
I'm definitely having interweb issues.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, regardless, and it looks like the Authority was King of Kings. So there you have it. Looks like they're tied. So anybody who has any idea otherwise, hit us up over at the TWF show on social media. Let us know your thoughts on this. Feel free to tag that as well when you find out when I use the Sancho. What was it?
Sanchismos.
Sanchismos. So that's going to be, let's see if you can find it. But yeah, so final thing. I want to go quick run through. I want favorite WWF theme, favorite WWE theme, favorite WCW theme.
Oh, God.
Favorite ECW theme, favorite AEW theme, and favorite TNA theme.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Fred, or do you want me to go first? I haven't thought about these. All right. My favorite WWF theme of all time. That's a tough one, but I think it would end up having to be DX. Would be my favorite if we're in the time when they were WWF. It's the one that I probably ended up listening to the most. Bret Hart's my favorite wrestler. Loved his theme, but you couldn't like rock out to it the same way, So I'll say maybe DX. WWE theme. As much I love me some Billy and Chuck, if I'm being completely honest. But I guess I would probably say Voices, Randy Orton. I think is just a great theme. And I'm sure I'm going to think about this afterwards and go, what am I thinking? But if we want to go old school, I mean, you can go old school. And of course, I would say Demolition. If we're going like pre-Attitude Era WWF as well, I would say Demolition would have to be my favorite because that beats out DX just because I loved it. WCW theme, it would have to be the NWO. WCW original theme, I guess, would have to be, they didn't have any. Buff Bagwell, I guess would probably be that. TNA for me is going to be a toss-up between Joe and AJ Styles' original TNA theme. When I said TNA, I meant it as a joke at first because I was like, who's going to come up with it? And then I thought to myself, I actually really was digging their stuff. I actually love Kurt Angle's theme there too. AEW, my favorite theme of the AEW, I'm going to say is actually Judas would be my favorite one, or Jungle Boy's theme, which I know is also a real song. And then what other company did I forget one or did I get them all? What? ECW. ECW, it's got to be Taz. So that's mine. Fred? We're going Golden WWF, Attitude WWF, and WWE.
There's a lot that I think are kind of tied. It's hard to pick, but I'm going to say WWF, probably Demolition, I would think. Let's go WWF. I would say so WWE. God.
Anytime after they got the F out.
Yeah. I'm going to say it's a tie between... What's the three? I'm gonna go with a three-way tie.
Okay.
Because I don't like anything that much, but
right.
It's between Bobby Roode, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Deuce and Domino.
Deuce and Domino was a badass theme too. That was up there. I'm telling you, that's like the same as like I loved like Ass Man. Billy and Chuck. Also, I loved a lot of Billy Gunn's music, even though it wasn't necessarily like good. I loved it, but okay. So, all right, WCW.
Probably either it's gonna be NWO or Booker T, Harlem Heat.
Okay. Impact / TNA.
Angle.
Okay. And ECW.
ECW. I'm gonna say Sandman.
Okay. And AEW.
I don't know a whole lot of things. I think Jericho's probably.
Okay.
So I'm not familiar with too many.
Do we hit everyone, I think, for you?
Yeah.
Calvin Tan.
Hey, WWF. I think I'm gonna have to go with Hogan.
Okay.
You know, just as a kid, that feeling when his music hits and the crowd pops.
Did you ever feel like when he came back, 2002 on, that it never hit the same way?
Yeah.
Was it an audio thing? Was it the way it just never felt like it never kicked in exactly the same way, and it was the exact same song. So I don't know
if maybe it was the way the camera panned right before it hit the entrance.
It was like
maybe
it was like too much. Production.
And then what's the next one? The WWF
Attitude Era.
Wow, Attitude Era. I would probably say, yeah, big fan of Triple H's from the Attitude Era.
Which one? The My Time or the Game?
I actually do like both. I
guess My
really
Time's more Attitude, I guess, right?
Yeah, My Time is because I just picture him standing there with the lights, right?
Oh yeah, all the lights that would shine up, the uplighting of multiple colors. Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever realize that, dude, for as much as everyone's like, Triple H did this, Triple H did that, like, let's say everyone was right and Triple H was the guy who could have said, I want you to cancel everyone else's pyro and give me the pyro budget, right? In this scenario that everyone likes to say that Triple H was just over there taking and taking and taking. The guy's entrance was flashing multicolored lights on him and spitting water with a spotlight on him.
Yep.
I mean, I'm sorry, that man, he made things for himself, I believe. But anyway, so what about WWE?
I'm gonna have to go with Nakamura.
That's a great one. WCW.
WCW, it's got to be Harlem Heat.
Okay. AEW.
Yeah, that's good. That's gonna have to be Judas by Jericho.
What about
I have no
ECW.
TNA.
What about ECW?
ECW would have to be Taz.
Okay.
War Machine by Kiss.
And nothing for TNA?
Nothing for TNA.
So you're going with Major Players by Downstate and John Kiernan, as heard at Impact Wrestling Rebellion. All right. And Matthew Mangol, lay it on us.
WWF would be Strike Force.
Girls in Cars?
The Strike Force, I like the beat to it. The original.
Right, Girls in Cars. That's what I'm saying, right?
Is that what it was? Okay. I don't know the name of it.
Dun,
I remember hearing
it. Girls in Cars. Dun, 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 dun.
No, there was another one. There was a different one.
I love Girls in Cars.
No, that's not the one.
Going off the rails.
Hold on. We're Google.
No, Mangle. Final answer. Strike Force, Girls in Cars, your favorite of all time.
That's not the right one. I'll send it to you guys anyway.
It is Girls in Cars. I just looked it up.
Listen to me. Listen.
That's not the right one, though.
I am a grown-ass man, and I am confident in my taste. I love that song.
Hold on.
There it is.
Yeah, it's a good song. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
So it was Girls in Cars.
You also have to put it in. Yeah. You also have to put it in. No, Mangle. No one's insulting you. I just 80s. Sang the chorus. You have to put it in context of it being the 80s. That sounded very much like most of the hits that we would hear on the radio in our parents' cars.
That's 80s. So anyway, fuck all of you. Next one would be Attitude Era. I can't do it. As I slide the Snapple,
man, could you
glass jar?
Could you imagine if you were putting together a show today?
Yeah, seriously.
And you were relying on that guy to sell your tickets.
So Attitude, I like the Triple H one, but I got to go with the Brood.
Yeah.
And actually WWE, Brock Lesnar. You know, not much to it, but good beat.
Dun, dun, dun.
ECW, I would actually say, it's a toss up between two, but RVD, right?
Oh yeah,
and
Walk.
And
see, we can't actually play the music, so I'm just gonna.
No. And AEW, again, I try to watch the stuff, but I don't watch it all the time. When we were at the show at the MGM Grand years ago, the original where they had like the video game footage on the screen for the Elite.
Oh yeah,
that original I liked. That was kind of old school. And then I'll have to look it up. I it's in my head, but I can't. The other one I guess would be what, TNA?
TNA.
Right, not the original Samoa Joe. It's like isn't that like it sounds like don.
Yeah.
That I can't stand that. Sorry. It sounds like someone's just pushing buttons here.
Dude, but
So
Joe,
anything that's not original Samoa Joe.
anything that's not original.
Anything else.
What a WCW.
Without being able to point anything up right now, I was thinking, did I like Christian Cage's song in TNA? I feel like I did, but I can't remember it.
You did.
Probably.
It's now pretty much the same thing. It's just slightly redone, but it's the same.
That might be.
It's an Evanescence song, and it's like a cover of Evanescence. He uses an AEW with the countdown and everything.
I'm changing my favorite AEW song.
Okay.
WCW, well, Harlem Heat's up there, but and obviously NWO, but what was the other one? Not the Maestro. Sweet Jesus, God. Not Virgil or Vincent.
God.
Awful.
Hey, you know what? Actually, I loved that version of the NWO. The B team.
That one. That was okay. That was catchy.
That was also catchy. Like that was like a knockoff Hendrix song or something.
Yeah, I think my favorite was the Voodoo Child. I was trying to find that CD at Best Buy.
Speaking of Jimi Hendrix, yeah. Which, for the record, much like Rhapsody in Blue before him, Voodoo Child, Hulk Hogan played a portion of Voodoo Child. And I remember finally listening to Voodoo Child and just was like, I had to like find like the part, like the mix of it. So yeah, it was, wrestling music.
I just wanted to throw something out there. What was that?
No idea.
Somebody hacking us? What's happening
here? Anybody remember the original and very terrible WrestleMania game for the NES?
Yes.
Yeah.
The original one, where
the icons would jump and they'd you'd get like Andre the Giant's foot or something.
Well, everyone used to walk like this.
They had the MIDI instrumental.
Oh God, what are we seeing? What the hell are we watching here?
Can you isolate that as like an animated?
Yeah, that's exactly how it was. The kicking. Mango, you got the kicking. Yep, that's how it was.
That's exactly it.
Oh man,
you don't have that many frames.
Oh, Mangle, that's turned into a GIF.
So they used like crappy primitive MIDI versions of the theme songs, and they came up with some kind of weird Andre the Giant, whatever. But the one that was totally incorrect was Ted DiBiase, and you know what his MIDI was?
What?
Girls in Cars.
You're right.
Machismos.
What? But why? Because they couldn't do dun 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 dun. Like, come on. Oh my God. Which begs the question: were they expecting to have someone? Maybe they were originally expecting it was gonna be like Tito Santana or someone.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah,
it'd be a lot easier for them back in the day to change the little sprite character than to change the music.
Yep.
Fred, I want to change. I want to change my selection for WW Attitude Era. I'm changing it to this.
Oh. So
Yes.
We had a friend.
You're gonna get us fired.
We had a friend who we mentioned on the show before. Christian Porter wrestled for the TWF. Mm-hmm. But we used to pull up.
I beat him.
You said, "What's your finish?" I'll move. But we used to roll up to Christian's house and put the window down
driveway, it's free.
And blast that music. And it was not well received at any time, but we would do that all the time.
Awesome music.
You're gonna get us fired.
I must say.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's not in the archives of anything.
I have this one that I'm actually allowed to play. This was a good one as far as original music.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Obviously, it's still in my Rodecaster Pro, but we gotta wait for it.
That's very
Yeah, that was a really good one. The BWO theme, by the Swamp Candles. Yeah, but so wrestling and music. It was it's such an important part of the presentation in modern wrestling that when it's good, it's so good. When it's bad, oh man, is it bad?
I'd like to admit something. Oftentimes, I fast forward through a lot of the matches in WWE, but I will stop for the end.
Stop for the entrances, yeah.
And the music, yep.
One of the reasons I used to love the Royal Rumble was when they started playing guys' musics all the time. It was also one of the reasons that I would love to play the Royal Rumble in like No Mercy or something. Because you could just continuously have guys. When we used to get the video games, the first thing we used to do was watch their entrances and hear the music. And which again, like, I don't know if kids today do that stuff or if they're so numb to it. Because technology is so prevalent in their lives. But for us, it was just always so mind-blowing to see stuff like that. And when we were finally able to edit one of the WWF games on the PC, and we were able to map Matt Mangol's face over Triple H and have him come to the ring and put his music in there, that was just like the coolest. It was the coolest thing ever. And wrestling music, man. So I guess final thing. What was the first music you ever used in wrestling, and what was the last music you ever used in wrestling?
What do you mean?
So for me, the first music that I ever used in wrestling as me as a wrestler in any way was Rhapsody in Blue when I was the Magnificent Man. That was the first time I ever actually played a music for me to come to we won't say ring, we'll say grass, to wrestle. And then the last music that I've used, I have yet to actually come out to my new So Says Shernoff theme. So the last one that I've used to enter into an arena of any sort was the So Says the Superstar theme created by Matt Fonda. So
I'm probably not going to remember my earliest. The earliest one I'm aware of that I used for anything was King Mabel's theme.
So you used one before that.
Really?
I can't remember what it was. For whatever reason, I want to say it was like a crisscross theme or something. Crisscross or something like that. But you did. I remember you used something like that. But yes, King Mabel.
That was when I started as Punch Fresh, like at home and all like that. That was King Mabel.
It was King Mabel, yeah.
And the very last appearance of Punch Fresh was It's a Fight 3-6 Mafia. The last thing I ever did in wrestling was still just Lee Harrison Styles with Back in Black.
I think the very last time you ever came to the ring technically doesn't count for you, but you accompanied Dave Sagan to the ring, and that was whatever his music was. I don't know what it was called, but it was the dun 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 dun, which I thought was awesome. I don't know why he's using anything else, but I'll try to get him to change it back, or get his own theme made. He might have his own theme. I don't know. I don't watch the product. Calvin Tan.
Seek and Destroy by Metallica.
Was the first one you ever? When was the first time you didn't use music, like when you wrestled on the trampoline or any of that stuff?
No, never had music back then. So,
wow.
Yeah, TWF was the first time I actually had entrance music, and that was Metallica.
Did you ever have anything other than Seek and Destroy?
I don't think so. No,
I don't think so. I think you were always, because you were Seek and Destroy, and the IOV was Seek and Destroy because that's what you came out to. When you at Armageddon got Mangol and Porter to come with you, to stop their match and come with you, the music that played was Seek and Destroy because that was yours. That's what you had coming out to face me. And then your final appearance, which I guess was in 2003, June of 2003, coming up on 19 years, was when you accompanied Matt Mangol to the ring and came out to, I don't know, did you come out to, maybe you came out to Mangol's music. I think for the final one with you, you may have come out to Seek and Destroy, though, because I think we may have done that as like a, I don't know. Mangol, what about you?
Yeah, I used to do a lot of wrestling outside there, but I don't think we did any theme music. I'd say it's Super Beast by Rob Zombie and the bastardization of Cowboys from Hell meets the
Eric Greco
version.
But your favorite of all time is the Bob Fury.
Oh yeah, which cursed the TWF 3 times over.
I think the curse was
Fred read from the Book of the Dead, not knowing what the F he was reading. The curse is all the shit, and then we're all going to be walking around like this.
Oh. On that note, oh, thank you all for joining us here and Talking with Friends.
All because of you.
That was fantastic.
You bastard.
Matt Mangol, everybody.
Hashtag Sanchismo.
Hashtag Sanchismo, which I believe is the name of this episode. Well, no, I think we're going with like
Sanchismo.
Yeah, Sanchismo. Hashtag Sanchismo. That's what you have to do with me. You have to use hashtag Sanchismo, and go with that. But for Matt Mangol, for Calvin Tan, for Fred Shernoff, thank you all for joining us. This was a lot of fun. Take this old trip down memory lane. And as Matt Mangol works us out here, I'm Josh Shernoff, and we will see you next time for another episode of Talking with Friends.